When you hear the word RPG, what's the first company that pops into your brain? Would it be Square Enix with their lineup of gaming classics like Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger? Or perhaps you think of Namco Bandai with their signature Tales of series? Or perhaps even Atlas with their... While all great companies in their own right, well, almost great, they are not the ones I will be talking about today. Welcome back to a brand new episode. Today I want to take a look at a little game called Ys VIII Lacrimosa of Dana. Ys, however you want to say it. The kind of 8th entry in a long-running JRPG series that I am very much known for having a bit of an obsession with. It's amazing that the series has stayed this strong and shows no means of slowing down. And considering a port to the Switch had just come this past June, I cannot think of a better time than to talk about this game and the importance it has on not only the series, but for Falcom as a whole. Let's jump into it. The Ys series is an interesting one when really taking a look as to how far it goes back, over 30 years ago. But for us here in the north of Americas, it's only really been popular for like, I don't know, 10 years? I'm exaggerating of course, but in Japan, Ys is considered as one of the granddaddies of the JRPG genre. Whereas here, it's only recently that we've had ways of playing most of the entries in the series. Which brings us to today's game, Ys VIII Lacrimosa of Dana, the newest entry in the series. And throughout the video, I'll be taking a look as to how this game takes everything that has been seen in the series prior, but still introduces new things along the way. But for now, let's take a look at the story. The game starts off like all other Ys games do. Adol, our main character, going on an adventure, or rather returning from a previous one, as he and his partner Dogi are on a ship that they seem to be working on as expenses for being passengers. We are also told that the ship will be passing by an island that is known for taking ships ashore and making them stranded there for the rest of their lives. Why is the ship going near there? I don't know. The night of the banquet to welcome the guests on the ship takes a weird turn as Adol is asked to go on lookout as a suspicious person seems to be on the ship and the captain would like Adol to scout the area. When doing this, the ship becomes under attack by a gigantic creature and it makes all the crew members and guests stranded on the island that I mentioned before, the island of Saren. And really the plot from here is pretty simple. Adol and the others that you'll meet along the way must try to survive and escape the island in one piece. It's pretty simple if that were the full extent of this game's plot. On the outside it does seem rather simple going into it, but then there is the other side. Like a simple coin, Adol is one side and Dana is the other. Dana is possibly one of the greatest additions to a Ys series, if not the greatest, and allow me to explain why. See, the Ys series has never had a chance to really go all out in terms of plot. Yes, Memories of Celceta and 7 did go a bit far out with plot developments, but 8 was the first game to really push the boundaries. See, Dana's story takes place in another time and adjacent to Adol's story. Her tale is about becoming the newest maiden of the Great Tree, and on her final trial to being called the new maiden, she receives a vision that suddenly takes an odd turn and gives her an unsettling glimpse of the future. And while both of these events are happening, both characters are seeing each other's journey throughout dreams and visions. So essentially, there's two stories happening at the same time. Adol's quest on surviving the island, and Dana's quest to find out the true meaning of her vision for the future. It sounds complicated, I know, but trust me, it really isn't. The game makes sure to give you enough information to make the player better understand the situation. And I suppose it's better to talk about it now rather than later. As Adol and his friends continue exploring the islands, they find the temples that Adol had seen Dana running around in his dreams. They meet a man named Thanos, Rakota's father, and he says that he has something to show Adol. They head deeper into the ruins only to find Dana herself waiting there for Adol to arrive. When she wakes up, she says she has no real memory as to why it is she sealed herself there and waited for Adol. And this is truly where the main plot begins to boil down. Yet the objective still stays the same. Keep searching the island to gather supplies and find other survivors, and find out more about the island's secret and why exactly Dana is here with us. There's a lot more to go into, but we'll be saving that for later. So for now, that's all we gotta worry about. Now, as I have stated before, I am playing the Nintendo Switch version of the game for the sake of this review, mainly due to the fact that I wanted to see if this version was worth what you get. And graphically speaking, the game does look as good as its counterpart on the PS4. However, this doesn't mean it isn't without fails, because yes, while it does look very nice, there are a few graphical differences from each system. The PS4 can render and output a lot of assets in the game that's used much clearer and smoother than the Switch version can. It doesn't hinder the gameplay, mind you, and aside from a few instances of frame droppings here and there, the Switch does run the game pretty smoothly and just as good as the PS4 counterpart. I should also mention at the time of writing this review, there are some updates still to be available to the Switch version that is supposed to help gameplay be improved and run smoother. So hopefully, in the future, the rendering issues and those few frame drops I mentioned will be fixed. Since this would be the second best way to play the game, since from what I can tell, the PC version is still bad. But yeah, the port does run pretty well aside from a few things here and there. And look at all this cool stuff you get for buying the Switch version. I didn't expect this. Thank you, Falcom. Now, Ys VIII is very different from its other entries in the series. While yes, it is still a hack and slash JRPG like the others, the camera position is now behind the character rather than a top-down view, which, trust me, changes a lot more than you think. See, now the field can be seen from almost every angle since the player has control over the camera, whereas the field of view in the other games is just limited to what the camera can show, much like a top-down Zelda game, which thank God they did because, oh my god, it's an open world-esque game. This island is huge, and you'll be exploring every inch of this place when trying to find other passengers to bring them back to the village, the many treasures that lay throughout the island, and of course finding location points and just plain old story progression. And this game doesn't just have you running around for nothing, for you see, whenever you rescue a passenger, they will usually unlock a side quest or two that you'll have a choice of doing. And much like every other RPG, you'll gain some new items, but you'll also gain some approval from each castaway, which let me tell you now, you'll want to do. This is foreshadowing, people. Alongside this, completing more of the map allows you to gain extra item slots and bonus items that are only obtainable through the map completion. The game really does do a great job of making the player want to explore by giving them rewards and treasures. And this isn't even covering all the small stuff like cooking dishes and fishing. There's just so much to do in this game, and oh man, I forgot about hunts and raids, which are somewhat optional events in which you can either defend a village from incoming monsters that come in waves, or hunt down monsters in order to clear out an area that a big monster is staying in. Hunts are more of the optional ones here and aren't really required to beat the game, but they do offer some nice rewards here and there, so I would recommend it. Well, all this talk about gameplay and stuff, how about we actually dive into the combat system? As I'm sure you've seen from the footage, Ys VIII is an action JRPG which depends on fast movements and strikes, but also the careful eye of the player in order to utilize its fullest potential. You have your standard attacks, which are usually a combo of hits that do nothing more than normal damage, and if you let your attacks charge, you can unleash a charge attack. This is used to fill your SP meter in order to use attack skills. These are a special type of attack moves which deal much more damage and use SP in order to be used. And as you level up your character, you can learn even newer and more powerful skills. Oh, and did I mention, there is a total of 6 characters that a player can use. Adol is the quick hack and slash swordsman, whose attacks are a quick flurry of strikes. Laxia is a fencer who is quick on her feet, but has some more powerful yet slower magical attacks. Sahad is the slow brute that hits like a tank. More damage output, but movement and skill activation is really slow with him. Really a risk versus reward system. Hummel is the quick shooter, with skills focused more on either long range or close-up attacks. Rakota is a faster version of Sahad with more powerful hits, but with the movement attached to them, making her much more nimble and all in all better than Sahad. And last but not least, Dana. She's much more like Adol with quick strikes and mobility, but her weapon gives her a bit more area off damage for her attacks. And that's not the only thing that's separating the characters. They each have their own types of attack to split between slash, hit, and shoot. Each type are stronger and weaker against different types of enemies, so keeping a balanced party is key to doing well in this game. And worry not, there are ways to protect yourselves as well. You can either roll out of a way avoiding taking damage, and if you roll at the precise moment, you can get something called a flash move, which essentially slows down time and you are free to hit the enemy much faster than before. Then there's the flash guard. If you press the guard button at the perfect moment, you can activate something called flash guard, which gives the character a boost in strength with critical hits for its time of activation. When first playing the game, it may take some time to get a hold of, but when you do, man, does it make the fight that much more exciting. And don't even get me started on the bosses and how much fun they are. Depending on what difficulty you play this game on, this game can give you one hell of a time, and boss fights will probably be that reason for 50% of the game. But much like every other encounter, once you truly start to grasp the patterns and the gameplay mechanics, these fights become like a game of chess, waiting for your opponent to make those slight mistakes so you can go in for the kill. Now, before moving on, there is one thing I want to talk about, that being Dana herself. Yes, I've talked about her before, but here's the thing. There's 2 Danas. types: past and present Dana. Present Dana is who I was talking about before, but her past self has a different style of fighting, this being her different styles. She basically accumulates the different types of styles mentioned before, but in one character. It's an interesting change of pace for a character we should already know damn well, and it makes things so interesting every step of the way. Oh, I love this game! Alright, I'll be honest, there is a lot that happens throughout this game, but it doesn't really affect the major story as a whole. In fact, to be honest, the main plot doesn't truly take place until just under a third of the way through the game. Now don't get me wrong, it's not that nothing happens, it's just that many things take time to build up. However, the main aspect is Dana herself, and the mystery as to why she has seemingly traveled through time. After the gang takes care of the giant beast that roams the waters, preventing them to escape the island, Dana's visions become more and more revealing, as do her flashbacks to the past. It turns out that the warnings of dangers that she was envisioning was a giant meteor about to hit not only their village, but around the world, essentially wiping out any and all civilization. The reason lies within the name of the game itself, the Lacrimosa. This is essentially an extinction event and god, which wipes out the primary species of the planet after they run their life course. And this isn't the first species that this has happened to. Many others have witnessed this fate, even including an old friend of Dana's named Sarai. We learn this knowledge from the past survivors of the Lacrimosa's fate. See, when the extinction happens, the Lacrimosa, for whatever reason, chooses one person to be immortal, and Dana this time was chosen for this cycle. However, she refused and fell into a deep slumber, which she put herself in, so that she may awaken in Adol's time and try to go against the Lacrimosa with them. And of course, fate weaves its thread, and the Lacrimosa is back for the extinction of humanity. And this time, Adol is chosen to be humanity's only survivor. But of course, our heroes tempt fate and decide to go against the Lacrimosa, and really, this is where the end game takes place. The past survivors hold a test to see if they truly have what it takes to do what they felt they couldn't. After beating the past survivors, they acknowledge that you may have the potential of taking down the Lacrimosa and lend you their strength. Then only one thing remains, taking down the being that threatens all of humanity's existence. The Lacrimosa fight is split up into 3 parts, and each part will use all of your timing and skills and put it to the test. Is it best to try to get the hardest hits in and possibly take damage in the process, or the quick speedy strikes and the chance of a sneak attack getting the best of you? It's up to you. Even the final part requires the use of the 3 different attack types to defeat it. After defeating the being, the team thinks that now all shall be well, but as it turns out, the victory is not yet gained, as the destruction of the world is still nigh. Dana comes up with an idea to try to use her essence power to try to stop the end of humanity, and in the long run, succeeds. Then the team wakes back up in Castaway Village, and all seems well. That is, of course, all except for Dana. When Adol wakes up, he realizes that Dana is no longer with them, and yet he's the only one who seems to remember Dana. Trying to find her, Adol and the gang head out to the forest and try to find the truth about Dana. Then appears the goddess Maya. Essentially, she's basically Mother Earth. She tells the party that Dana essentially didn't make it, but it's thanks to Dana's sacrifice that the goddess came to be and that everyone came out of the situation alive. But the gang respects Dana's wishes and her sacrifice, and they will not let it be in vain. They board the ship that the castaways spent the time and effort in building, and with that, their time on the Isle of Saren has come to an end. Objection! Nah, I ain't having that. It's not a happy ending unless the waifu survives, boys and girls. Now, the ending I mentioned before is the quote-unquote normal ending. There is, in fact, another ending. Remember before when I mentioned foreshadowing? Yeah, well, this is what I was referring to. See, when you complete quests and things of that nature, you get what is called reputation points. Well, if you gain a certain amount, you can then unlock a way to obtain the best ending, which, yeah, get that? So, what exactly lies within the best ending? Well, it starts off the same way as before. You fight the Lacrimosa, Dana sacrifices himself, yada yada yada, except this time, after learning the truth about Dana after defeating the Lacrimosa, the goddess Maya states that Dana is gone forever with the Lacrimosa. However, this time Adol is like, nah, we ain't having any of that, and decides to face even fate itself to rescue Dana. Maya is happy with Adol's resolve and expresses that she will do whatever she can to help them save their partner. She opens the way to to origin of all that is created, and with one final stand against what the Lacrimosa calls fate, Adol and the gang raise their weapons, and the true final battle against the Lacrimosa begins. Alright, the first phase, I'll be honest, is a bit of a drag in which you just attack the waves of enemies that come at you, but since this being is basically the origin of everything, it does make sense that he would bring them to battle. But after defeating the larva form, the being then takes his true form, and this is where things get fun. The beautiful orchestrated music kicks in, and the battle commences. This boss starts off pretty normal, with slow movements yet quick attacks, but as the fight progresses, his movements become faster, and his attacks become more frequent. By the end, it's a dancing match between the player and the enemy, just waiting for one to make the right or wrong move. But in the end, you accomplish it, and the team finishes their quest in saving Dana. When Dana reawakens, it's told that in stopping the Lacrimosa, and essentially everything else we've done, Dana has been named one of the newest goddesses of the world, the goddess of evolution. It will now be her duty to watch over humanity alongside others who share similar visions. She will also be tackled in keeping the Lacrimosa at bay, which the other survivors of the past Lacrimosas will help Dana in. After a long, heartfelt goodbye, everything returns to as it should be. The boat is finally built so that survivors can leave the island they've been trapped in. They all rejoice and take one last good look at the island as they depart. The journey comes to an end, and yet I feel like it's only begun, at least in terms of the series. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that this entry is an important one to the franchise, and I stand by it. See, this series is one that I cherish dearly. I would even call it one of my favorite JRPG series of all time. Yet very few people would ever talk about the series, but this entry was not only initially received well when it first launched, but it can now be played through on a variety of platforms, and more people are finding out about this series every day. And hopefully this will lead to them wanting to play the other entries in the series, as they should. As I mentioned before, every Ys game that was released in North America is now available through Steam, and I urge you, if this game has made you interested in it, then go and give the other games a shot. I personally recommend these titles here, and in case you couldn't tell, I adore this game. Last year, I would have named it one of my top games of 2017, and since its initial release, I have completed this game not once, but now I'm doing it twice on my Switch. I highly encourage anyone to pick up this game and give it a shot. It's a wonderful game that I will always return to again and again.